thank you for joining us on this very special episode of the ThunderCast. I am your host, Lio Convoy, and I am joined here with number one Marmaduke fan.
It is nice to be here today.
And returning once again, the illustrious Couch Boy.
Hey, what's up? I'm illustrious, I guess. I don't know what that means, but I guess it's good.
All right, so real quick before we get too hot and heavy into this, I hope you guys are all enjoying the thumbnail that was done by Couch Boy. Wonderful work. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much, Couch.
I love it so much.
Help on the plats, Lio.
All right, anytime. If there's any audio issues, guys, you got to let me know. I'm talking to the chat. What we're going to do is a special request by Couch. Couch wanted to cover a ThunderCats creepy fan fiction, so that's what we're going to do for the season. I, again, do not celebrate this holiday, but it's something that'll be interesting. It's from a writer I know absolutely nothing about, because I have not read ThunderCat fan fiction for like 17 years. So here's what we're going to do. Couch, why don't you go ahead and introduce us to the writer of this piece?
Okay, so little bit of background on this. So this fanfic was written by a guy. He mainly goes by R.D. Rivero. I've also seen him as Dr. Abraxas and Snoveler occasionally. And he's kind of been around the internet for quite a while. I've seen him floating around on a couple very old Angel Fire sites back in like 2001-ish. But this guy's big claim to fame is, I believe he has written, my god, King Hissy and I were looking into this, I think a total of 56 or something horror fan fictions. I wouldn't really call them creepypastas because they don't quite fit the label, but he's written an insane amount of horror fan fictions for ThunderCats for whatever reason. Apparently back in the day he had a little bit he had a little bit of infamy about him because of this. And the one that we're going to be covering tonight, it was originally up, it's called Flesh and Bone. It was originally posted somewhere, I think it was posted on an old Angel Fire site called like Thundera Tiger or something. It was posted originally in 2003, and then in 2011, kind of around the time when like Cupcakes and Rainbow Factory, kind of like shock fics like that were really picking up. It was re-uploaded to fanfiction.net, which is where we're going to be reading it. And I think actually this year it was also uploaded to Archive of Our Own. So this guy is still kicking. I mean, he's been around for quite a while. And my friend King Hissy from Twitter, he actually made a dot card with more information on this guy and some of the other stuff he's written, and I will be linking that after the stream for anyone who's interested in looking at that.
Also, King Hissy likes to turn Thundercat images out of memes, and I don't know how I feel about that quite yet. But it makes me laugh every time I see it. All right, so the fanfiction we're reading's name is Flesh and Bone. So we're going to go ahead and get started. What we're going to do is we're going to trade off by line. So I'm going to read the first
by
section.
line. Okay, so by line, do you mean the lines that are separating paragraphs?
Yes.
Where you can. Yeah, gotcha.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to do first, and then we're going to have Marmaduke, and this is by Couch's request, so we may witness this first, and then it's going to be Couch.
Yes. Yeah, because I consider, oh god, this is like the worst thing I probably ever said, but I guess I've become a bit of a fanfiction aficionado. I have already read this. I've read this several times, and I'm really excited to see everyone's reaction to it. But yeah, let's get into this nightmare train wreck of a fic. I guess not train wreck. I don't know. Let's just do it.
We'll find out. We have to wait and discover what this mystery is.
Flesh and Bone by R.D. Rivero. 1/21/2003. It was sunset and the evening sky blazed with a vibrant red-orange streaks. shimmered with finger-like clouds. The weather was cool, and the air was unnaturally calm. So still and so quiet that the very ruffle of the underbrush was abnormally perceptible. The terrain was flat along the main road, a gravel and dirt mixture that led from one horizon darkened by the deep blue hue of the encroaching night to the other aglow with the immense image of the dying sun. Beyond the road, the land was marked with scant hills and gentle mounds. Beyond that were rocky, barren cliffs, carpeted by lush, green forests. Hidden within a particular gorge, where the canyon was the widest, was a complex of oily, dusty buildings. At the center was the most prominent of the structures, a multi-story factory cannibalized from broken spaceships and antiquated technologies. Tiny windows adorned its dusty brown facade at random points here and there. It was surrounded by dams of dirt-filled stacks, chunks of concrete slabs, and a gapping ditch that resembled a moat. Vehicles were parked at the head of the wooden planks that spanned the deep trench. Wooden and aluminum buildings dotted the boundaries of the encampment. Puffs of white steam vented from their roofs to the sky, proof that their residents were eating dinner. Armaments protected the perimeter, while a 150-foot antenna behind the compound stood defenseless. Lion-O crawled through the grass from the cliff to the complex. He eased his binoculars onto his eyes and stared into the base. Two jackalmen patrolled the periphery. Vulture Man emerged with the remains of an electronic component, its colored wires hanging across his arms, yelling and stammering, utterly frustrated until he returned to the main building. Lion-O reached for his transmitter and signaled Tigra.
Lion-O? Tigra whispered into his communicator. Where are you? I can't see you through the factory. Panthro and I are nearing the antenna. He paused and continued whispering slowly, cautiously. I've got two jackalmen guarding the backside of the complex. The panther tapped the red tiger's shoulder, signaling to retreat to the shade of the cliff provided. We'll split, the gruff gray cat said. I'll throw 2 stun grenades at the mutants and advance while you plant the explosives beneath the tower. Let's do it, the red and black cat said, readying the equipment. We don't have a moment to lose. Worse, we don't have a take 2. Lion-O? Tigra, the Lord of the ThunderCats replied through the radio. We're setting up the division. Be ready. You'll hear 2 explosions. Panthro grabbed 2 stun grenades, one in each hand, safety pins removed, and crouched just above the waving, bristling tall grass. All he had to do was lunge the shells at the jackals. 5 seconds later, just 5 seconds later, the blast would be strong enough to knock them out and frighten the others in mad rushes of wild and frantic terror. That momentary shock would provide Tigra the opportunity to plant the bombs and clear the antenna. The antenna had to be destroyed. It was the key to the success of the ThunderCats operation. There was only a small number of mutants at the base, and they wanted to deny their enemies the opportunity to call for reinforcements from Castle Plundar or from anywhere. Tigra inched at the ready, his joints limber, his body agile. Adrenaline coursed through his veins as he waited and waited for the moment, brief and momentary, when the compound would be too stunned to notice, too surprised to act rationally. He intended to approach invisibly, but his fellows did not have that necessary advantage. Panthro stalked the boundary between the undergrowth and the roadside, coming closer and closer. He emerged from the grass to the gate, growling like a mad panther. The jackalmen turned to face him. He threw the stun grenades at them. The streaming shells arched and snaked, and with ground-shaking blasts, the 2 guards fell right where they stood. Tigra, his whip wrapped around his body, remained unseen by the pulsating tower. He secured 4 bombs, one along each corner, and quickly removed the safety pins. He rushed to the panther, who had succumbed to the shock of the explosion, and covered the gray cat's body with his own.
That's it! Bengali shouted. He and Primira lurched over the edge of the northern cliff, watching as the tower, its foundations torn asunder, trembled and shuddered. Listening as the shrieks, its gasps of death, announced and heralded with explosions of its own, its collapse into mounds of superheated metal. Lionel's voice broke through the transmitter. Now, Chitara! The puma gazed across the canyon, catching the hazy afterglow of the cheetah. The spotted cat sped from the sloped face of the southern cliff to the mutant encampment, hurling metal canisters as she penetrated the perimeter. Some were impact grenades, some were smoke and tear gas canisters, and following her lead, the Thunder Kittens hovered above the base, raining their torments upon the fleeing, choking jackalmen and monkeans. Lion-O, Sword of Omens in tow, scrambled through the main entrance, blasting everything with the blue plasma emanating from the mystical weapon. And golly, while they're routing the mutants, what about the factory? What about the factory? The White Tiger asked, his attention focused from the puma to the sooty, grimy structure. See? She pointed to a troop of simians lumbering through the moat-like trench. If they hold themselves into the building, they might rally a standoff. Bengali tried his communicator, but Lion-O did not reply. He must have either turned off his radio or... Either way, we're no use to them up here. Come on, growled, getting up. Bengali, we've been given orders, she protested, following him. We don't have time. We have to act now. Come on. He grabbed her by the arm and led her from the bushes to a murky crevice where twisted tethers dangled from the top to the bottom of the cliff. Come on, I can't keep the mutants off by myself. He slid down the slope like a spider spun down its web. She was cautious, but didn't lag far behind. He landed first, she came second. Armed with his hammer, he covered her while they hurried into the center of camp. Multicolored blasts from Thunderian and mutant weapons peppered the air all around them. What are you two doing here? Lion-O scowled, his face turning shades of red deeper than his mane. I told you two to stay. The mutants are regrouping and heading into the building, Bengali shouted, realizing that his leader had only taken notice of the enemy along the trench. By Jaga! I would have told you through the transmitter, but it was blasted, damn it! Ooh, he said a bad word. Goodness, Lion-O.
Where's that damn Chaos Emerald?
Dog.
Oh, alright. It was blasted, damn it. He dodged the random fire of a simian. Stay down! Down! He growled, lunging from the lion to the ruins of a wooden hut. Myra saw Bengali inch towards the moat. She saw, too, that nearby mutants had been made aware of his presence and steadily converged it to his position. Tigra, at the moment, uncoiled his whip and, with flashes of blue light, appeared by the bridge over the trench. It distracted the Plundarians long enough for her to reach the White Tiger. Keep your head down, he warned. They're converging on us. How many grenades do you have? 15. You have 5. He removed a strap from his shoulder. The tiny metal canisters clanged among themselves. Take them and take cover next to that aluminum hut. He pointed to a rectangular structure with a domed roof that poured acrid smoke, though it was not in flames. I'll sneak into the building. I'll blast anyone who tries to enter. You stun anyone who tries to escape. She nodded and crouched to the side of the minor building. He advanced through the ditch. That was momentarily clear while the mutants dealt with Tigra from the bridge to the side entrance of the main building. She watched him vanish into the structure, her breath racing, her mind struggling to focus. It was simply too dangerous. Also, yeah, I don't know if you guys have noticed, I'm not going to try to do the voices.
Don't worry about it. It's okay.
It's alright. I noticed that the...
I know for a fact I won't be able to do Bengalis just because I don't have...
Well, you could try! Just flex your voice!
Oh!
Yes! Yes! Like that!
Alright. The Jackalmen and Monkeans, who had been beaten back by the powers of the Red Tiger, rushed into the moat, intent on retreating into the factory. She readied a pair of grenades and fired the stun bombs as soon as the troops were close by. 4 fell, but the rest, shaken, were determined by their fear and cowardice to continue their doomed run. Again she readied the canisters, and again she hurled the shells at the mutants. And again, there were a few who did not fall. She was about to try again when blasts from the kittens disabled the remainder of the resolute simians and jackals. But one of their impact grenades missed their target. It lodged into a bulkhead adjacent to the side entrance and exploded, blocking the opening. Bengali, who had ducked behind a stairwell, rushed to the blockage. Unable to clear the hot and smoldering, gnarled metal, he was upset and agitating until it dawned on him. It was for the best. Indeed, the front entrance was guarded by Lion-O and Panthro. The side entrance was inaccessible. There was no way in or out of the building. Yes, he thought. Grinning, Safe and secure, he could explore the factory. He could determine just what was being done there. For months, the ThunderCats had been aware of the complex, spying and observing from the air and land. They had recorded many trips from and to Castle Plundar that were required to erect and enforce the base. The Lunatics and even Mumra had visited the facilities from time to time, but always the ongoings inside the main building were an utter mystery. He discovered the obvious. A chamber whose walls oozed an oily sweat of soot and ash. Its sickly, sour odor clung oppressive onto the environs. He found neither a door nor a window clearly blocked, only those stairs at the corner of the room. Cautiously and quietly, he tiptoed up the cold, hard metal steps. Darkness and shadow greeted him. On a landing, he gravitated toward a hatch, a portal from which lights shone and sounds echoed, calling, beckoning him forward, onward. A thin passage emptied into a wide room. Square windows, cluttered tables, instruments of all manner and variety, electrical, chemical, biological, beakers of multicolored fluids, containers of spasmodic flesh. It was a mangled mess of Plundarian technologies. Vulture Man and 3 Monkeans crouched and hid at the center of the chaos. "Base to Plundar! Base to Plundar!" the avian squawked. "We're under attack! Come in! We're under attack!" Bengali reached for his shoulder strap. "Blast!" he scowled, his growl alerting the mutants. "I gave Pumaira my canisters!" His cover blown by his own rashness, he had little choice but to aim and fire. "You meddling cats won't get away with this!" the bird exclaimed. "You've interfered with our plans for the last time!" "Eat my hammer, bird brain!" he shouted, if just
Yeah,
to
suck
shout.
my dick, Vulture Man! I'm sorry, but like, what else would that translate to?
Leroy Jenkins.
Oh my god.
And I love that he shouted it just to shout it.
The room glowed with the brilliance of green and blue plasma. The white tiger crawled under the table, pushing it onto its side, spilling its contents. Using it for cover, he alternated facing, firing, ducking, and inching himself and the table closer and closer to the dreaded enemy. The vulture flung the radio away. It was useless, and crept behind the firing simians. Seizing flasks of water and sodium, he prepared a concoction of death. He poured the ingredients into a larger container and threw the mixture at the miserable feline. I'm sorry, I have to stop here. It's salt water.
Okay.
Wait, that's NaC.
okay.
That's saltwater is NaCl. Sodium's different, I think.
Yeah,
right?
so,
It has a
yeah,
chemical reaction.
You put like raw sodium in there. Fun fact: the flames from this, because I actually looked this up because of the fan fiction. They would have been like a really nice pink color.
Nice. Anyways, the volatile compounds exploded. Red and yellow fireballs engulfed the room. "Quick, to the roof!" he ordered his mutants. As he fled the scene, he turned his beak to see the black and white cat's body under the table. It had collapsed aflame over him. "Meddling blunder cat!" He spit and ran into the stairwell.
What was that? Pumaira asked, turning from Tigra to the building. Thin, gray smoke oozed from rows of broken windows. "Bengali's in there!" Lion-O and Panthro looked on aghast. The mutants were coming, I get it. The mutants were coming too, and, instinctively, fled to the east, to the night and Castle Plundar. They too had heard the explosion and looked up. Vulture Man and a handful of Monkeans were on the roof. "Now's our chance, Panthro. While the rest are fleeing, let's storm the building." The Panther waved to the Tiger and the Puma to come, while the Lion blasted the front entrance with his sword. The 4 rushed into the factory, while the Cheetah and the Kittens remained behind to provide cover and oversight. A single small room, a skeletal stairwell that led up. "Is that the smell of burnt fur?" Panthro asked. "Bengali!" Pumaira exclaimed, rushing toward a landing where smoke and the sizzle of flames tortured her senses. "Let's see. It's probably nothing. This place reeks of every foul odor imaginable. Don't be distracted, Pumaira." But she did not listen. Oh, that was Lion-O. Dang it. I wish they just had, like, the name of the cat.
Yeah, the dialogue is a little confusing in this. Don't worry about it.
It's all right. But she did not listen to Lion-O's orders. She entered the room, crawling on her knees through the shattered tables and battered instruments. The fire was consuming itself. The smoke was thinning. She could see little in the haze of soot and ash. Bengali, she shouted, but there was no answer. Look out, Lionel shouted as he and the rest assaulted the roof. Hovering above were 10 skycutters. The mutants and Vulture Man seeped through his fingers, and without a word or a blast, the Plundarians fled past his range of fire. They got away again, but empty-handed, Lionel. He nodded and sighed. It would all be for nothing, whatever it was. From the ladder to the stairs, he and the men noticed hatchways and passages that led into deeper and more important portions of the building, portions that held the secret of the structure's true purpose, the mutants' clandestine aim. But now he was uninterested. He had last seen Palmyra entering a room several floors beneath, and he wanted to see what had become of her, and Bengali, if he had been in there as well. The Sword of Omens growled as he neared the mysterious chamber. Palmyra, what is it? He saw her kneeling next to a table. As he approached closer and closer, he saw too what was behind it. He gasped. Palmyra cradled Bengali's body across her lap, her arms not caressing, but clamping his body, his bloody, mangled head together. All around her, on the floor, on the walls, on the oily, grimy instruments, were seared splatters of flesh and bone and burnt fur.
Well, he's fucking dead. Okay, guys, let's wrap it up. We're done for the night now. I'm just kidding. But yeah. So yeah. What do you guys think so far? Now that we're getting into the nitty gritty of it.
I actually like the descriptive language. That acts like I was a little worried. Like with a lot of fan fiction, sometimes there's like numerous spelling errors or grammatical errors that make it hard. This is actually pretty clean copy, and they kind of like describes the character's state of emotion. Like really, the only little nitpick I'd have is I wish that he'd always indicate who is saying what, but it's actually pretty well written so far, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's the weirdest thing about this whole fan fiction. As we go through it, it's competent. Like that is probably that's almost what I find like the funniest about it is that it's a ThunderCats horror fan fiction, but if you just took out character names and replace them with names of like original characters, I would accept this as like an independent like work of fiction. Like, it's that good. But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. I don't want to spoil too much for the ending. Let's continue.
It has a no word, and he said again way too much in one paragraph.
John Clawfield in the chat is telling me to firebomb Vulture Man, I guess. Okay.
We can do that. We have the technology.
Kaboom! Okay, let's continue. The somber skies were obscured by rain clouds. The solemn forests were doused by fallen runoff. Rain sprinkled the windows, disturbing the still and silent lair with the frenzy of its dropping. It was as if the forces of nature were intimately aware of the loss and despair faced by the victorious ThunderCats. Tiger emerged from the medical room, fingers, hands, chest bloodied like the visage of a butcher. His manner was that of death, eyes glued to the floor, gait slow and deliberate. He paused before the wide windows of the hallway inside. Tigra? Panthro asked. You've been working for hours. Have you made any progress? Lino asked. The Red Tiger looked to the side, momentarily shocked and surprised. He'd been oblivious to the ThunderCats. Where's Palmyra? Chitara exited the medical room, holding a crumbled, bloody uniform. She's pacing in the conference room, the Panther answered, rubbing his face. The kittens are keeping her company. He nodded and turned to the cheetah. Thank you, he said, softly. She replied with her eyes, large and wet, and vanished down the hallway. He sighed and noticed his hands. Facing the men, he gave his prognosis. He breathes, his heart beats, but he, whatever it was that made him Bengali, is dead. I can't save him. He pressed his polluted fingers over the bridge of his nose, his brow nodding, coursing. There wasn't enough left of his brain. The door of the medical room was partly ajar, and through its narrow gap, the white tiger's bare feet could be seen, hanging limply off the edge of the operating table. Lion-O shuddered. What are we going to do about this? I'll tell Palmyra, Panthro said. No, Tiger interjected. I'll be the one. She has a basic knowledge of medicine. She'll understand if it comes from me. But what are we going to do about Bengali if he's dead, but not dead? Right now, he's on a machine that helps him breathe. Are you going to pull the plug? Panther clenched his fist in a moment of rage as the realization dawned on his face.
All right, since nobody else is, I'm gonna say it. Like, him not having a brain didn't cause any problems before.
There wasn't enough left of his brain. Not that I realized he had one. He just holds it up in a little jar, and it's like the size of a grape. Look, I can wiggle it around.
All right. Tigra pulled the plug, but Bengali was strong for days, weeks. He lingered, while Pumara wandered aimlessly about Cat's lair, denying yet awaiting the inevitable. She cried as the world moved on. Bengali's breaths were labored and prolonged. The ThunderCats destroyed the roadway and removed the weapons from the mutant complex. Bengali's body twitched as it rotted, suspended between life and death. She cried. The base's contents remained secret and hidden. The Puma stood alone, her universe crumbling with the white tiger's every breath. Pumara announced that she was headed to the Tower of Omens to collect Bengali's possessions. The weather was clear, and the wilderness was calm, and it was thought that a good, long stroll through the treetop kingdom would do her mind well. But her mind was unresponsive, for it was elsewhere, and along the way, she diverted from the outpost to the Plundarian encampment. It was always there, as always, still a tomb. What had they been up to? It had cost Bengali his life, and she was determined to know exactly what it was, whatever it was. The main entrance, the stairs, the room where she discovered his broken body. Smells of rot and decay clung to the air, heavy and oppressive. She threw a chair against a window, smashing it to let the fresh air circulate. She sifted through the tables, the ones that had remained relatively intact, and gradually the litter of spare parts took form. Microscopes, slides, scalpels, and tweezers. The various tools of surgery mangled and rusted. She peered into a magnifier, but the sample had dried out in the heat of the fire. The mutants had very few weapons. It was not shaping up to be the sort of factory the ThunderCats had feared it to be. Yet there was more. Much more that was left unseen. Returning to the stairway, she discovered only one way to go. Up. Up too far, she would reach the roof, but a middle section revealed a doorway that led directly to another dark and shadowy chamber. At the extreme left were tubes. The bases of the clear structure were melted, the lids were open, and the bluish fluid they contained evaporated through the wide orifices, aromating the room with a familiar scent of formaldehyde. She approached the dim lights of the tiny windows, revealed a sight so horrid she stopped and screamed. It was a factory, but not for the creation of mechanized weaponry. It was, it seemed, the next unnatural stage of mutant development. It was common knowledge that the Plundarians had originated from ancient laboratory animals that had been subjected to the cruelest form of experiments that ultimately led their society and their conflict with Thundera. I'm going to comment on this later. And now the very subjects were continuing that long line of wretched horror, twisting it into an altogether new and different direction. For it was not enough that animals had already known and understood to be mutated into humanoid forms. It was the aim of the Empire's maddened scientists to create new creatures, wild and bizarre in arrangement and variety, never before seen, built upon characteristics they desired, characteristics they accentuated by piecing and slicing together parts of extant mutants. And before her, in the display cases, were the failure of Ultraman's experiments. The new generation of mutants that would have been. Eyes and beaks of birds, arms of simians, legs of canines, bodies of reptiles. The plasticity of the flesh had been attained and exploited. The spliced and grafted parts fixed together without seam or stitch. How had they done it? She stared agape at the super mutants. Not a scar, not a blemish. One segment simply grew into the other without boundaries between the different fleshes. Only the changes in color and texture indicated that the parts were of a different body. At the center were operating tables covered with thick canvases. She peeled back the tarps and revealed what she suspected lay beneath. The fresh skeletons of failed experiments. Not only the flesh, but the bones as well showed no sign of injury and repair. Clearly, she understood, Different parts require different internal structures, avian, mammalian, and reptilian. Yet the skeletal framework lacked the ossification that always accompanied broken bones and fractures. She explored the drawers and cabinets, looking for a document, a notebook, a record of any kind. She needed to know how the bodies had been so perfectly melded into one another. She discovered medical supplies and surgical tools and a little more. And little more. At the extreme right, she found the answer. A metal box that resembled a makeshift refrigerator housed vats of sulfur-like granules and very pure water. She dragged the items to the center and examined the containers under the swiveling bright lights of the operating tables. The sulfur compound had the consistency of sand and the stench of rotten eggs. Its color was that of cold, frozen pink that resembled dehydrated flesh. With the aid of metal spoons, she mixed over the tabletop a sample of the chemical with a smaller amount of water. She watched closely as the goop that formed steamed and bubbled until it formed a very hot substance, a deep red gel that emitted a sticky, sour scent. It quivered and reacted to her touch as if alive. Excising a pair of ribs from the nearest corpse, she applied the goop between the thin shards, the broken bones. The substance pulled the brittle parts together, spread across their entire surface, and set immediately and instantaneously. It settled and became so strong and hard that the pliers snapped as she tried to break the synthesized bones. She had uncovered the answer, but had no explanation. And still the factory remained largely unexplored. The puma returned the containers to the refrigerator and noticed that along the floor, a pair of vault-like doors, was a series of canvas bags. She paused to rub her eyes. The bag seemed to melt completely into the darkness and shadow of the room. And then one shuddered. Her first impulse was to run, but she had delved too deeply to turn away. The sacks were small. Whatever they contained were no more than a few feet long. They could not harm her. And what if they were innocent animals or youngsters that the mad mutant doctor had captured for future use? It would have been against her duty to leave them languish in that hell. She leaned over the floor. The bag quivered more violently. She neared. She grasped its tapered tips. Simple knots tied the sack shut, but the string was tightened. The jostle was such that she had little room to maneuver. She sliced the cord with her claws. The tip expanded and opened. The dreaded contents slithered free. She screamed and staggered aghast. The thing in the bag uncoiled. It was a mutant torso. No arms, no legs. Either the limbs had failed to set, or the experiment had not been completed. It hobbled like a maggot, inching across the floor from the corner to the door where enough light shone into the room that she saw clearly its head. Avian, it had shrunk and shriveled to the size far, far too small for its body. Though the glue connected the flesh, the head lacked the direct blood supply from the torso and cut off the vital nourishment. It rotted into an advanced state of necrosis, its texture burnt and charred, its manner limp and lifeless. It, the creature from a Plundarian nightmare, entered the stairwell and stumbled out of sight. Real quick commentary here. I don't know where they're getting the idea of like mutants coming from, like experimenting with animal hybrids. I think that I heard some dude years ago like came up with a ThunderCats concept that involved that and cannibalism, and I think it might be this guy, but I'm not really sure.
Probably is. I if I had to guess, it's probably just for the flavor of the story.
Might be.
Kind of his own solution to their origin story.
All right.
I mean, you know, they have to have mutated from something, right? So mutant experiments at least kind of fits with their name.
I figured they stupided themselves into existence.
Does that mean the super mutants are they're like that one Shen comic where just I'm stupid faster?
I love that comic. All right.
Then they crawl out of the primordial soup. They look over and the ThunderCats are just this magnificent race. And they just say, screw it. We're gonna kill those guys, whatever it takes. We refuse to die.
Thank you very much for the super chats, Bankman. All right, go ahead, Mom.
All right. Tigra stormed into the conference room. Lion-O, Panthro, and Chitara were standing along the edge of the round table, discussing the latest blueprints and schematics. The three turned at once to face the red and black cat. "Where's Pumaira?" he asked, ruffling a bundle of sheets in his hands. "I must speak with her." "She took Wily Cat and Wily Kit out this morning," the cheetah answered. The The kittens were asking for shovels, said they were headed to a field by the tower. They do that when they collect mushrooms, the panther explained. Why? It's not mushrooms this time, it's Bengali. He's dead. The lion rubbed his cheek. Odd that the sword had not growled or announced the ThunderCats' passing. He was stronger than we expected. When did it happen? Chitara asked, a single tear streaming down her face. Well, according to these notes, he died shortly after midnight last night. It was Pumaira who did the paperwork. She must be burying the body, Panthro concluded. Why didn't she tell us? Why all of the secrecy? Lion-O asked. I don't know, but I intend to find out.
The Thunder Tank arrived at the Tower of Omens. Tigra and Panthro embarked from the vehicle to the flat field at the south side of the outpost. A pair of shovels lay across a mound of dirt slightly darker than its surroundings. A wheelbarrow was tipped on its side between the crude, raw earth and the lush, velvet forest. The kittens paused from their work, collecting and gathering stones for the headstone, and stared at the adults without words for endless moments. Don't be sad, Wily Kit said. Did you see him? Panthro asked. He was worried because Tigra had warned against letting the twins look at Bengali's injuries. He was wrapped in white bandages, Wily Cat said. You three carried him in that? Tigra asked, pointing to the wheelbarrow. No, the youngster continued. The grave was already dug. The adults raised their eyebrows, and he was already in the hole. She just needed our help to cover it. Where did she go? For a walk, the two answered.
You've been distant, the old lynx said as he sipped his steaming cup of tea. It isn't like you to neglect your duties. The puma stared through the kitchen window, the wasteland around the tower, the sterile mound. Pumaira, please. Lynxo, she sighed. It's like a lie. It's like I'm living a lie. Bengali is dead. Accept it. No, you're wrong. Accept it, Pumaira. Our friends, our families, our entire planet is dead. It is our responsibility to go on. She turned to him. She opened her lips as if to speak, but held back. Excuse me. I know you loved him. He reached for her hand, and she obliged. It's been a month, and your behavior grows worse and worse. You are hardly ever here, and when you are, well, though you may be in body, you are not in mind. Your responsibilities, Pumaira, your responsibilities are what define you. There are things more important than that, Lynxo. What ThunderCat hasn't suffered a loss? How does a ThunderCat grieve? He smiled and answered, one breath upon the next. She hugged the wise cat and whispered, but he's not dead. He's not dead. I've made certain of that.
Bengali's death certificate, charts, and medical files were scattered about the conference table, thoroughly read and reread. Tigra tapped his fingers. Lion-O rubbed his chin, and Panthro snatched and scanned random documents. It doesn't add up, the Red Tiger said. The manner of death Pumaira describes isn't consistent with his injuries. She didn't perform an autopsy, yet she claims with certainty that it was heart and kidney failure. No urine or blood sample was retained for analysis. She destroyed everything. That's Panthro. The kittens never saw the body. It was already in the grave, wrapped with bandages. Bandages? The panther flipped the papers back into their folders. We don't have enough bandages at Cat's Lair. She said he died shortly after midnight, but she didn't tell anyone. She didn't speak a word of it for 10 hours. Why not tell us? Why not ask our help if she wanted to bury him at the Tower of Omens? Why the kittens, luring them out falsely and informing them halfway through the trip? Why did she move the body by herself, only to return on foot again to ask the twins for help? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. It reeks of something. Well, what do you suppose happened? Lion-O asked. I don't know. That's the problem. I suspect she didn't tell us because she didn't want us to know. Whatever it is she did or wanted to do, she learned after 10 hours that she couldn't do it by herself. So if she needed help, who wouldn't question her? Who wouldn't notice or be aware? Who but the Thunder Kittens? You think she killed him? Panthro asked abruptly. It's strange. If his mind was dead already, would it matter if she killed the body? It would seem to be a rather humane, to be honest. The lion sighed. Bengali was reckless. Time and again, I told him to stay on the cliff. I needed him and Pumaira to stay on the cliff. If he had listened, the mutants might not have gotten away. But he had to play hero. Life goes on, Tigra. The world moves on. You're making a mountain out of a molehill. You're seeing things that just aren't there. Organ failure, that's what the brain dead die of. Low-key burial, that's what he wanted. So she didn't handle it well. So, does it make her a suspect? Does it imply her guilt? I can't fault her, and I can't suspect her. He's dead. It was bound to happen. It happened. The red and black cat shook his striped head. However rash or impulsive, he died a hero in the line of battle. To be buried in the yard like a pet, it's unbecoming a ThunderCat. We must know what happened. We must. We owe him that much dignity. Ask Pumaira. She knows. We can't, Panthro said, getting up. She hasn't been the same. It might only upset her. Lino nodded and sighed. Haven't we all suffered through the death and loss of those we loved? I lost my father and Jaga. I didn't break down, and we didn't have elaborate ceremonies. The life of a ThunderCat is struggle. Struggle against time and against the forces that would destroy us. We must remain as equally determined and unwavering as our enemies who lurk and plot. I don't want to seem indifferent, but as the Lord of the ThunderCats, the weight of responsibility rests on my shoulders. I must obey the duties of my office. I've judged, I've concluded. There's nothing wrong. Panthro grasped Lino's arm and spoke. You've had to grow up too fast. You've lost your childhood. But no matter what's happened or what'll happen, you can't lose your humanity. As ruthless as you might think you have to be in the face of our enemies, never forget that our humanity is what separates us from them. If there are questions, there must be answers. He struggled against the panther, but relented. Oh, Bengali, you are defiant yet. Your spirit walks abroad and turns my own men against me. All right. We'll dig, if it means we'll get back to normal sooner rather than later. Too many ThunderCats have sprung out of their minds. I won't bear it a moment longer.
Can I make a real quick interjection here?
Sure.
Okay, a few things. Number one, I'm getting irritated by the 2 G's and Jaga he keeps putting there. But he's writing, the entire time he's been writing Lionel really cold.
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing. Like, he just seems very resigned to the whole thing and very unfeeling. Like, oh, someone called the farmer's market. We got a vegetable on our hands, folks.
Yeah, this sounds more like, how do I put this?
Tigra?
Not the way he's talking to everybody doesn't sound like Lionel. It sounds like somebody trying to make Lionel an edgy, hardcore leader that just has to brace through things. Lionel's a lot of things, but he's not Batman. This is what Batman would do. And also I've concluded, the ThunderCats operate via council. This is where he's starting to lose me. Like, while it's competently written and generally solid, he seems to struggle with some of the characterizations.
Yeah, that is my one big nitpick with this fic, is Lionel seems very out of character, especially since in the original series, especially in season 4, it was implied that he was pretty close friends with Bengali.
Yeah. Alright, so let's continue.
So I just reached the end of the paragraph.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Alright. Lionel jogged from the garage to the grave, Bengali's headstone wet with the dew of the summer night's mist. What's the news? Tigra asked, adjusting the lamps. What did Linkso say? Gone all day, Lionel replied. Didn't say to where. Let's get started, Panthro said, dispensing the shovels. The twins told me the hole was pretty deep, so we'll have to work wide. The 3 formed a triangle, Tigra at the center, Lionel and Panthro 10 feet to the sides. They uncovered the loose and aerated topsoil. Thunder and lightning screeched through the heavens. They breached into the rocky and sterile earth. Sooty droplets of drizzle permeated the scene. The ThunderCats worked 5 hours to dig 5 feet, yet the body lingered, interred deeper and deeper still. If she drugged the grave herself, it must have taken the better part of a day, Tigra said, wiping the sweat off his brow. She would have been noticed, unless she did it at night, Panthro said. How long does it take to walk from the... hold on. How long does it take to walk from the lair or the tower to the mutant base? Lino asked. Kessel Plundar? No, the other base. Same distance, I suppose, 4 or 5 hours. Lino rubbed his chin and continued to dig. I think I've got something, Tigra said, grinding his shovel into the dirt. Doesn't feel or sound like a rock. Dropping their shovels, they fell to their knees and scraped with their hands. Ew. The excavation was 10 feet deep and 30 feet wide. Steep and unstable, the walls provided the eeriest setting of a dreadful underworld. The pit was awash with shadows and darkness, illuminated only by the lightning. The men were unaided by the lamps and headlights secured at the surface. It's soft. It must be the linens. The body, that had been dumped into the ground without so much as a coffin, was exposed, partially freed from the ravenous clutches of the earth that were so utterly determined to consume it to oblivion. Looks a little too small, wouldn't you say? Tigra asked. The body, wrapped with linen bandages, was scarcely 5 feet and very thin. Maybe there's more left uncovered? Lino answered. Thunder and lightning. Rain streamed into the grave. Panther extended a claw and carved a rent into the brown and brittle bandages. The tear, the sound of fibers snapping, cracking, stirred awake something within the wrappings. He stood and staggered back. The men stared as the exhumed something shook and quivered. What? By Chaga? The tiger angled his body against the piles of dirt he himself had dug. It, whatever it was, stood. The slash widened and a head emerged from the tear, an avian head. Its beak had wasted, sagging and dropping. Its skull had imploded, shrinking and withering. The grave itself birthed a limbless torso. It flopped about the confines of the tomb, slithering on through the horrified onlookers' feet, trying to break free of the crypt. The ThunderCats fled The ThunderCats fled aghast from the grotesque sight, the image of the vulture's dead corpse attached to the reptilian's living torso forever etched into their brains. What the hell was that, Tigra? Lino asked as he peered into the hole, unable to see. He could hear only the seizure-like struggle of the monster of the deep. Whatever it is, it's not Bengali, Tiger said, pausing to catch his breath. More. Much more has been going on under our noses than has been revealed. He nodded. And in that case, I know what I have to do.
Honestly, I'm going to say if I was writing this is where I would have done the bait and switch to where, like, I guess Pumaira would have just gotten so freaking pissed she just threw Mumra in the ditch and covered him in dirt.
What the fuck do you want?
Get me out of here! Alright.
Do I look like that albinistic himbo to you?
I mean, he could disguise himself. Anyways, Lionel doesn't care, Pumaira said, as if in reply. The puma stood amid the shrouded columns of the murky chamber. Moonlight seeped in through the cracked and broken windows. The others worried too much. Tigra, Panthro, and Linkso, but especially Linkso. They think something's wrong. She approached a bucket whose lid lay across the side, partly on and partly off the floor. They just don't understand. With a wooden spatula, she mixed the contents of the plastic container, a gooey nourishment of black and tan proteins and carbohydrates. Do you think they should be told? She paused, as if to wait for a reply. She peered into the recess of the laboratory, but the distant corner remained engulfed by the blackest cloak of night. You're right, of course, she said, picking up the pail and taking it to gloomy oblivion. They think this is wrong. They'd separate us. All right, hold on real quick. There we go. She walked to the side of a skeletal chair that rested against the sturdy pillar. Foamy cushions had been intertwined through the metal gridwork of the back and seat. A deep basin had been placed underneath it, between its legs. Scooping up a glob of the tar-like substance, she spread a coat of the goop across the top of the chair, about the vicinity of the column, the excess dripping down to the filthy floor. She knelt between the chair, easing back the basin. It was partially full of urine. She rubbed her
Pumaira
cheek.
found the pee bucket.
Oh my god. She rubbed her cheek against the knees, the thighs of the seat's unseen occupant. Gingerly kissing the furry flesh, She purred.
Oh, she's sucking his dick. What the fuck?
What?
No.
Wait, is that...
No.
No.
She purred, eerily filling the room with a cacophony of her contented joy and happiness. By any chance, or happenstance, the occupant's arm fell from its rest and landed limply next to her head. She took the fingers, cold and stiff, and passed the rigid members through her hair, scanning every line, touching every curve of her face. "In the name of the gods!" Lion-O gasped. Pumaira jerked to the side, her eyes glaring, stabbing like a shocked and rabid animal. The Lord of the ThunderCats drew to the scene, coming closer and closer until he saw Bengali propped upon a makeshift chair with a basin underneath to collect his wastes. And as he neared and inched and crept, he steadily grew more frightened and afraid than he had ever felt before. For a while, it was Bengali. It was only the white tiger from the neck down. Where the mangled and broken head should have been, there was a mass of flesh, hideous and grotesque, part reptilian, part simian, and part Thunderian. Each morbid ingredient mingled into a seamless concoction of unholy terror. Its skin was attached to the neck and the supporting column by web-like tissues. Its texture was moist either by the act of greasy sweat or slimy grime. It throbbed and pulsated. Its surface rippled. Something within it was revealing itself through scant hints of obscured contours. It was a nightmare born of flesh and bone, broken free from the minuscule confines of the brain. "Pumaira, what have you done?" "Isn't he beautiful?" She stood, grasping Bengali's hands. "He's alive. You all said he was dead. But he's alive. Evil beyond imagination. How could you have done this? Evil. How could I do evil keeping him alive?" She let the limp and lifeless hand go and pointed to the mass of flesh that sat upon the neck, fragments of Bengali's head poking through the skin. "See? Do you see what you did to him? You never appreciated him, Lion-O." He reached her, grabbing her arm. "You've lost your mind!" Struggling against his grip, she scratched him. "Let me go!" "You need help, Pumaira!" "Let me go! Bengali, you won't separate me from him! You won't keep us apart! I won't let you!" He took her other arm, his hands ripped and bloodied. "Bengali's dead. Whatever it is you've grown is more mutant than Thunderian. Come with me!" "Bengali, let me go!" "Ah!" Lion-O yelled, his eyes glazed and rolled black-white. His tight grip abated as he fell forward, coughing and gurgling blood. The white tiger had struck the back of the lion's neck with his clenched fist. His arm remained erect over the floor. She eased his hand back and laid her head upon his lap. "Nothing, not even death, can separate us. I did it for you. For you, Bengali."
"You were right, Tigra. The tracks lead into the factory," the panther said, pointing at the trail that snaked from the main road to the front entrance. "I wonder why the mutants never returned, why they never destroyed this place," the tiger asked, getting out of the thunder tank. "It's not like them to leave their equipment behind." The two ThunderCats stormed into the oily, sooty structure, their weapons blazing. One by one, they explored its various rooms and chambers, hallways and alcoves. They had left the encampment so quickly after Bengali's fatal accident that they had not had a chance to fully investigate or catalog the premises. What they found was clear and undeniable evidence that the factory had been occupied very recently, and then they entered into the uppermost vault-like laboratory. "Lion-O!" they shouted as they discovered the lion on the floor, his arms and feet tied with the sharpest ropes. He was injured, but still alive. It's... he gasped as the gag was removed from his lips. "She..." "What? What is it?" "She moved it. We have to get out of here. This... "Hey, look at this," Panthro said, standing before a pool of blood. "It's still fresh." "No, Panthro! Keep away! No! Panthro, wait!" But the panther did not listen and continued onward, following the puddle as it elongated and trickled and ended at the furthest and darkest corner of the morbid chamber, at the sight of an empty chair and upturned bucket of gooey black and tan tar. The end.
I agree, Venkman. When will the hurting stop?
All right, we finished this like nightmare train. So I'm curious. What did you guys think? What are your thoughts?
I'm trying to interpret the ending. So I know that Pumaira is black and tan. So it sounds like it's implying that Pumaira got like disintegrated or something because she was with Bengali.
I actually never picked up on that. I thought it was more like she was feeding him like goop or something, and then they headed out and it got knocked over.
So it could be like an ambiguous ending where we're not supposed to know with confidence what exactly happened to them at the end.
Yeah, definitely.
Huh.
I don't know. I think it's pretty concise. She ran off with her zombie boyfriend.
She headed out. I mean, I guess the ThunderCats could take care of their mutant problem if they figured out a way to capture him. Just let him go in Castle Plundar.
Couch, have you ever thought about seeing a therapist?
Why do you ask? I can't possibly be because I recommended this thing.
I honestly can't say
it was less horrifying than cupcakes.
Yeah.
You know, in fairness, it's still better than The Return.
Yeah.
Yes.
Even if Lionel's whole like really nonchalant attitude through the whole thing kind of harkened back to the whole grr from that one panel.
Grr.
But like if the return had ended up like this, then like I think I would have been okay with it.
I love how
Warner Brothers should get in contact with this guy.
I love how Lionel's attitude in this entire thing is so out of character. You might as well be like, "Oh, Bengali's dead. I just chuck him out the window."
All right, Tigra, it's time to put old Yeller down. Let's get the shotguns and take him out back of the lair.
I actually find the writer's descriptions a bit odd. Don't know why he keeps thinking Tiger is red. Very confused about that one.
I don't really know either.
I feel like he's interpreting red orange as red.
Yeah.
Either way, weird. Not the weirdest fanfiction I've ever read. Could have gone without the bucket of urine. Could have gone without the sexual overtone. Could have gone without the no words. I could have gone without all of this.
I could have gone without reading this, yeah. I don't know why he included the piss bucket. I don't know why he felt like that was necessary. Thank you, Venkman, for the $10 super chat. It's piss yellow, just like what we're talking about. It's great.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll go ahead and give me a second. Let's go here for a minute and get my throat cleared because of the little grumbling voice I was doing. I'll be happy to do that for you.
By the way, Lyle, both of you just awesome reading voices. I had legit chills while we were reading this. You two were great.
Thank you.
Thank you. I've been thinking it'd be fun for us to do some more, I don't know, like dramatic readings of ThunderCats related content if we could find it. So this was a nice warm up.
Well, this dude, he wrote like 56 ThunderCats things in a similar vein to this. So there's always that. But yeah, in case that's why I wanted to keep the thumbnail bit vague, because it was a spoiler for the ending.
It's alright, I think I can take him. If nothing else, I'll use Marmaduke as a living bludgeon weapon.
Lionel's fun fact, originally in this, Lio was originally supposed to be holding a gun, but then I realized, no, our friend Lio's gonna be throwing hands.
These hands
Lio's about to beat this man back into a vegetative state.
These hands are rated E for everyone. Alright, so let me see if I can do this thing for Venkman. Yeah. Yes, mutt. We will order delivery. Yeah.
Oh, I'll be the pizza guy on the phone.
Great idea.
It's OP, let's do it.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you for calling Robert Burbles Pizza. What can I do for you, sir?
You wretched burbles messed my order up for the last time. This time, I will
Sir?
brook no failure.
Sir, I'm gonna have to ask you to calm down. What order were you referring to?
Do not tell Mumra, the ever-living, to calm down.
Okay,
It was
sir.
last
Would you
week.
like to speak to our manager? Would you like to speak to a manager,
I
sir?
am the manager. The order was from last Tuesday.
Oh, I see. Let me just pull up your file, sir. And now, what name was it under?
Mumra, the ever-living.
Okay, let me real quick just Mumra, the ever living. Oh, I see it right here. Was that the pepperoni with the rotten anchovy heads and the toxic mushrooms?
Yes, I actually ordered double rotten anchovies. I don't know why you gave me pepperoni.
Oh, okay. All right. If I had to guess, yeah, it looks like it might have just been a misclick somewhere. Super sorry about that. We were training someone new that night. If you want, you can
Mumra
go
cares
ahead.
not for your excuses, boy.
Of course, sir. I understand. Okay, so what we're gonna do, I'm gonna call my manager real quick, and we're gonna comp you for that pizza, and we're also gonna give you a $10 off your next order. Does that sound okay?
I shall spare you from oblivion this time. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for being so understanding, sir. Okay. All right. Is there anything else I can help you with?
Destroy the ThunderCats.
Okay, let me just put that in a note on the pizza for the chef to see. Destroy the ThunderCats. Okay, actually one of our, we have do you know a Ben, his name's Ben something, a Ben Galai? Do you know anyone by that name? Because I know we do have ThunderCats come in here occasionally.
You
Do
called
you know
him
anyone by
gay
that
and this
name?
amuses Mumra.
Excuse me. You have been talking with that guy on the phone for 10 minutes while I am waiting for my pizza.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And I am not gay, I will have you know.
Okay, sir, please put the hammer down. Please, sir, please stop smashing the...
I will smash as much as I want until I get my veggie delight.
Sir, please, that's our only register, sir.
Take that, you vile thing!
Sir, you're being abusive.
You ha-
I'm refusing you service.
Mama, the pizza might be late.
Okay, Mr. Mumra, are you still there?
Are you
Are you
questioning the sanity of Mumra?
No, I'm not, sir. Okay, tell you what, the guy I was just talking about, he's in the store. Okay, so I got some pepperoni.
Oh, I remember now. I know him. He's going to want 500 pizzas sent to Cat's Lair. Cash on delivery.
Okay, you can definitely do that, because I'm gonna be real with you, man. Don't tell my manager, but I fucking hate this guy. He comes in every single goddamn day. He wants to say pizza, he yells, and he throws shit. It's really scary. We got some, we got some, like, pepperoni that went bad about a week ago. I'm gonna throw that on there, too, because I'll be honest with you, Mr. Mumrasser, I don't get paid enough for this job. Okay.
Poison
Okay,
him.
he's
Poison the blunder cat.
He's like throwing he opened the cash register, he's just, oh god, there's...
Where are my vegetables? I need them!
Sir, please. Sir, I'll get you your veggie delight. Just calm down. Sir. Sir, please. Okay, Mr. Mom.
I also need no gluten in my cheese.
Oh my god.
Your cheese, sir?
Yes, and I want the no gluten cheese in the crust.
Okay. Okay, do you want to, does that mean you want a stuffed crust?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That sounds delicious.
Okay, sir. Okay, I'll get you your stuffed crust. Mr. Mumrasser, is there anything else I can help you with today?
An extra set of cheesy bread, please.
Okay, I'll go get you cheesy bread, Mr. Bellfroster. Okay, thank you. You have a good
I
day.
will see you in 30 minutes.
Okay. Thank you. Please remove this man from my store.
I'll send the music.
I am going to eat at Pizza Hut next time. I have never had such terrible service.
Sir, this
Okay,
is
sir, I'm
Wendy's.
sorry. Please go to Pizza Hut. Please.
All right.
The worst part is that I used to work at a pizza place, and that
Triggering.
I had to deal with that exact conversation before.
I hope that made you happy enough, Venkman. I don't know if
At the top.
or what we'll cover next time we go over a fan fiction. Hopefully not something as questionable. Dark.
Grotesque.
But we'll see. Thank you guys for joining us, and we're going to go ahead and call it a night, and please spare your sanities and don't read this fan fiction if you can help it.
Great recommendation.
Or
Thank
if
you
you
very
don't care about your sanity, I will be linking the card that King Hissy made, very generous of him, in chat in just a second.
And actually, I'm also going to see, can I do this? Come on, Lyle. Let's, aha! I'm also going to, in the comment section, or not comment section, in the description, list
There's
the
that.
Discord server invite for the ThunderCats Discord wiki. So that you may hop in and enjoy all the terrible shenanigans that go up there to make me wonder what's wrong with everybody. Have a good night, everybody.
See you
Have a good
guys.
night. Thanks.